All right, ladies and gents, this is the most important lesson of what we've done so far and of almost the entire unit. So please, 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 please pay attention. Take really good notes. Pause it, rewind it, watch it again, whatever you need to do. This is super, super important. Okay, so in lesson 4, we are talking about adding integers, but efficiently, meaning that we're going to come up with rules so that we don't have to keep drawing arrows on our number lines. All right, now we are going to be drawing arrows on our number lines in this lesson so that we can understand what all is going on, but this is the last lesson that we are, okay? So please pay attention. All right, so we're going to be talking about adding integers, okay? So on page 17, you have a whole bunch of questions. You need to diagram the 3 plus 5 on your number line and then answer the questions. They do go on to the top of page 18. Okay, so pause your video, take a minute or two, diagram this out, and then restart your video because I'm going to explain what you should have written down and how this all works. All right? Okay, so I'm assuming that you did all the work for page 17, the top of page 18. Here's what you should have written down. Okay, so we need to represent the sum of 3 plus 5, right? So we start with our 3 arrow, and it goes to the right, and then we do our 5 arrow. Maybe, maybe not. There we go. And then we circle our sum to show that we're done, right? So how long is the arrow that represents the 3? Well, it's 3 units long, because that's the absolute value. It points to the right, because it's a positive number. The arrow that represents 5, again, is 5 units long, because, again, of absolute value. And it points to the right, because it's a positive number. That sum was 8, right? So if we were to just draw an arrow to the 8, it would be 8 units long, and it would be to the right, because it's a positive number. Okay. And then question VII, which is 7 in lowercase Roman numerals. What is the relationship between the arrow representing the number on the number line and the absolute value? We've been talking about this for a couple lessons. The length of the arrow is the same as the absolute value. And then this final question here, before we get on to the next diagramming, do you think that adding 2 positive numbers will always give you a greater positive number? Well, you should have said yes. You continue going into the positives, right? A positive plus a positive is a bigger positive. And folks, this is what you've done since you were 5 and you first started adding, or however old you were when you first started adding, okay? Nothing has changed. A positive plus a positive is a bigger positive. 1 plus 2 is 3, 4 plus 2 is 6, 10 plus 10 is 20, same old, okay? Just underneath that, again, page 18, is now this problem, -3 plus -5. Go ahead and diagram that, and hit your pause button, diagram it, and then play it again, and we'll go over those answers. Okay, so -3 and -5. Your -3 arrow goes from 0 over to -3, right? Your -5 arrow, you're going from the -3 all the way to the -8. -8 is your sum, so you circle that on your number line. Okay, you're going to be taking a quiz later this week on diagramming problems on a number line, so please make sure you have your straight lines, you wrote your numbers above your arrows, you circled your answer. We want to have good practice so that we can have good assessment scores. Okay, and then we're going to get to all these other questions here. They start on page 18, they go on to page 19. Okay. The arrow that represents the -3, 3 units long, again the absolute value. The direction does it point? This time to the left, because it's a negative number. The arrow that represents the -5, 5 units long, because of absolute value, and this time it points to the left. Okay. We found out that our sum was -8, right? And this is where we have to turn our page. So if you were to represent the sum, which is at -8, using one arrow, how long would it be and what direction would it point? Well, it would be 8 units long, that absolute value, and it would go to the left, because it's negative, right? So then, pivotal question, do you think that adding two negative numbers will always give you a smaller negative number? Okay, and remember, smaller negatives go further into the negative. Okay, the digit looks bigger, but because that minus sign is in front of it, or that negative symbol, it's really a smaller value. Okay, and that answer is yes, because you continue going to the negatives. If you move to the left, and you move to the left again, you just keep on going left. Okay, so a negative and a negative is a smaller negative. It's the opposite of positives, and that's what we talked about in lesson 1. Negatives and positives are opposites. Okay. So right underneath where we are here, okay, there's a question, letter C. What do these two diagrams have in common? And the diagrams are not on your paper. It just talks about both of the examples. You'll notice the arrows are the same length. 3, -3, same length arrows. 5, -5, same length arrows. The 3 and the 5 go in the same direction. The -3 and the -5 go in the same direction. Okay, that's what they have in common. We're continuing going in the same direction, which brings us to the rule right underneath that. Okay, so I would encourage you to grab a highlighter, a fun color, something. This rule in the middle of page 19. Highlight it, star it, put flashing lights around it, do something. When you add two rational numbers, those are your positives, your negatives, your fractions, your decimals, with the same sign, so positive and positive or negative and negative, we just add those absolute values and we use whatever sign it is. So two positives, when you add them together, you get a positive. Two negatives, when you add them together, you get a negative. Okay, super, super important. All right. So at this point, you're going to finish taking down whatever notes you need to, answer the question on Google Classroom, and then I have another video for you when you're done with that.